Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Devs Like Us. For this episode, we're doing things a little differently. Previously, we've had guests who were on various tracks of development. For this particular episode, we're doing things from the education side of it all. In a few of our previous episodes, we've talked about formal education and kind of how we think it mounts up to the boot camps. And so we wanted to get things from a professor that's on the formal education side. And we decided to talk to one of our professors from Norfolk State University and get her perspective on how things are going, the importance of formal education. And without further ado, our professor is the interim vice provost of academic administration, the executive director of the computer science of the cybersecurity complex, and she's a professor and former chair of the computer science department. And guys, we would like to welcome Dr. Williams.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good evening.
Hey.
Welcome, Dr.
I should also
Williams.
mention she's one of my favorites.
Awesome.
I don't know if I'm one of her favorites, but she's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dr. Williams' class was that class I had to take before I decided to determine if I wanted to be a computer science major. That was the one-on-one course.
Yeah.
I think she taught that 1 year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you made it. You persisted.
Yeah, made it past 101.
You made it out.
You know, about 30% of the students don't.
Oh wow.
Isn't that crazy? That class.
That is.
They ain't cut for it.
When you see the stats of, well, just being in person and seeing the transition from how many people start with you to how many people finish, like graduate with you, it's always astonishing because it's just like, man, like we had a lot of people and they just slowly trickle on out. And I think seeing that is actually a good thing because it helps you to tell other people like, look, yes, this field makes a lot of money and stuff like that, but it's not for everyone. You have to have a certain mindset or certain drive to, persist throughout programs and things like that. And so, with all of your background, Dr. Williams, and things, I know you've done a few jobs outside of, the academic realm. Do you ever miss it since you've been a professor for so long?
So I've been at NSU for 20 years now, right? So anything I missed would have been longer than 20 years ago.
Okay.
What I would say that I missed about the corporate world or the environment that I was working in, because I was in classified environments, you can't take your work home.
Right.
So in the evenings were yours, the weekend was yours, at the university. You working all the time, all evening, all weekend. I mean, I sat right here at my desk all day yesterday trying to get something done. Had to go out yesterday, I was told, on Saturday. But it went out, but it's just one of those things. So I would say, if anything, it is the ability to really shut down your work and leave it at work and not have it flow over into my family time.
Mm-hmm.
How is it trying to create that balance as far as, I guess, like, is it times where you just say, I can't do it? Or is it still just trying to, I guess, like make it all work?
So people would say I'm like a glutton for punishment because not only do I have the family and trying to make it all work, I'm a member of a bunch of organizations and I have leadership roles in those organizations too. And so, just trying to balance all of them has really been a struggle, but one that has worked for me because I have supportive family, especially my husband. So he understands. He has his own organizations, and 9 times out of 10, he invites me to do something for his organization.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to all the support systems. I love that,
Right.
Dr. Williams.
Family that works together.
She said she admits that she doesn't do it on her own.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So one thing I would say that I'm a I've been a pretty good team manager, right? You know, we're all part of the team, get this done. And so I can motivate people to help me accomplish my goals. That's the only way that I've been able to have the success that I have.
I love it. That's nice.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Dr. Williams, I did have a question. Did you always already know from like early on? When did you know that you wanted to enter into the technical workforce or within STEM? Did you know that you were kind of always going to go that route?
I would say yes, I knew. So as a child, I had my favorite aunt. We all have one of them, right? Your favorite aunt, and she was a
Very true.
programmer.
Oh, nice.
So she graduated from Virginia Union. She was a math major, but she was hired by IBM, and so she was a federal contractor. She was a programmer, and she had all the things that I wanted to have, did all the things that I wanted to do. And actually, I was first introduced to programming in the fifth grade
Oh, wow.
with
Wow.
BASIC in a gifted and talented program. And on a Tandy 1000, that predates all of you. But I was introduced to programming then, and I was able by the eighth grade convince my parents to purchase a Commodore VIC 20. You probably don't remember those either, but it was uh, I was able to program them. So I had a computer at home,
Nice.
whatever year that was, a long time ago, and I was able to program monochrome monitors. You know, they were just green
Right.
and light
Mhm.
Right.
green.
Wow.
The text was like
Okay.
that long ago. I was programming. I had a computer at home, and so it stuck with me. So I took programming in high school. They had Apple class logo, Apple logo, I think was the language. Um, they called it a computer math class, but it was programming. So
That's
it
amazing.
made
People today.
sense to pursue computer science at Norfolk State. And then for me, I received the Denema Scholarship. So it made it, that
Even
much
better.
sweeter. Yeah.
Nice. So I guess after you did get the scholarship and you finished school, is that what kind of drew you back into academia versus staying in the corporate world any longer?
Not at all. So while I was in school as a student undergraduate, I went to IBM for internships every summer. Because my aunt was there, middle manager, I was able to get a job, right? Nepotism at its best, right? But I got to work on different types of projects and programming. What I learned in those internships were things that I did not want to do. My first internship was overnight. I worked a third shift, midnight to
Oh,
8:30.
wow.
Oh, no.
And I was responsible for the programs that the developers created during the day, and because they were huge and punch card systems, they had to run overnight. So that was my job, to make sure that they had run overnight and was available for the program. So I knew that that was not going to be my job, not what I wanted to do.
Right.
The next time I was able to develop a system, so that's where I learned to work with APIs and OX10, which was an IBM operating system way back then, OS2, IBM operating system. And so it was interesting. But then my third summer, I worked on a contract with Dr. Deloach, who was the chair then. And we used the object-oriented methodology to create a retention and academic advising system, rap sheet we called it, right? So it was a precursor to what you remember as your eval when you were
Yeah.
in school, and people were, that's what we did,
What?
Oh,
coded
wow.
all of those things. Yeah, and we were able to present it to the president of Norfolk State and to the program manager. And so being involved in that and getting to actually present the work that we had worked on made it more interesting for me. And so I received a job offer and I took it, and I didn't want to program, right? As
Okay.
most of our Students graduate, they don't want to do any programming because back then everything was programmed. And but my job, because I was going into a classified environment, my background check wasn't complete. I had to go into an unclassified office at the DoD. And there I was support for the TTEP program, Trusted Product Evaluation Program. And that's where evaluators evaluated different software systems to see what type of security they held. And so the goal was C2 by 92. So now I'm really dating myself, right? C2 by 92. But it was a scale. It was the orange book from A1 to D's or F's. I mean, so you got levels, right? Mm-hmm. But I had to build a database. I was a database program. And I had a teacher that taught database that I didn't really care for at Norfolk State. And then that was my first job. So it was like, I was like, God is trying to tell me something.
Like, I'm
but
trying to
it was
avoid
a
this.
different type of programming because, again, it was with APIs and all of that. So it was nice. It was fun. I did it for a year, and then I switched off to move into more security aspects. But to answer your question about how did I get back to the university, my husband then, was he my fiance at the time? Might have been my fiance at the time, had broken his Achilles heel, had surgery, but he was in school. So I took him over to school because he couldn't drive. And I went to go see Dr. DeLoach, who was then the dean. And she said, hey, you need somebody to teach these classes at night. I said, we don't program you before Fortran. Nobody uses that in the real world. That. And she said, oh, it'll come back to you. I had taken a temporary duty station, so we were engaged. So I was living back in the area, but I was going to have to go back, after 3 years. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I ended up at the university because I talked to her. They needed adjuncts to teach the evening classes and was able to get a job. And so, I was able to stay home.
Oh, nice.
I was married. So that's why I came to know.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing. We don't get any of this stuff when we're worried about our grades in class.
Yeah, so that's what it was. And at the time, I only had a master's degree. So she lured me in. I started as an instructor, and after my first year, she checked my evaluations. I got great evaluations from the students. The students seemed to have learned something because I used to teach more classes than 101.
Okay.
And so she asked me if I wanted this to be my career. Now I'm thinking I done already moved back. Isn't what you mean? If I want this to yeah. She said, well, you have to go back to school and get your doctoral degree. And I was like, what? I go back to school again? I mean, what are you saying? It was a shock for me. I had a lot of adjusting to do, but she made a way. She had funding, found a program that fit my lifestyle and what I wanted to do as a newlywed who was having children, and to go back to get a doctoral degree. And she paid for it. And I only had to work about half time. So it became a no-brainer. So it was something that I had to do. So I did. 3 years later, I was Dr. Williams.
Nice.
All this time, I thought you were, one of those little girls who was just like, I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up. That's what I'm going to do. No, it was all by happenstance.
But that brings up a good point because there's a lot of talk now, 2020, there's a lot of boot camps that are coming around, and a lot of people, I wouldn't say anti-college, but they're talking about other options. And I know I made the right decision, but there are a lot of people out there that are considering, is college for me, or should I just go try to learn, almost treat it like a trade? But I think those stories like that, you were able, in the internships, you were able to have opportunities that, I don't know, it might have been hard to get outside of college. But do you think there's do you think like that's a really good benefit for why one should go to school, or would you meet someone and say, hey, maybe college isn't for you? Like, do you believe college is for everyone, or how do you think? I guess what advice would you have, Dr. Williams, for others that are kind of trying to make that decision of if they should go to college or kind of like go straight into the workforce?
So, I have that discussion with students every year, right? Because our better students will get a job offer and they'll get very enticing job offers and they'll just want to quit and leave. And I'm saying, okay, well, you can leave, but if you're so close, why not just finish your degree, right? And what I will say about that is that we have had students to leave, didn't complete their degree, go and work for different companies, make a ton of money. Then they want to move to management, and guess what's required?
A degree.
A degree.
Yeah.
And they can't move because they don't have the degree. So we have had more students that I would want to count to come back to finish their degree, but because the curriculum is ABET accredited and it changes, every so often to refresh, they can't get the computer science degree because they have to start all the way over. So more of them will get the degree in interdisciplinary studies, where they can take like 2 minors and, 5 core interdisciplinary studies degree to graduate.
Wow.
And so, while you're in the thick of it and you're making all the money, is great. If you want to stay there, that's absolutely fine. But when you want to move to those levels and the degree is required, you have a different, decision to make. So I believe that one thing about the degree is that once you have it, you have it. It doesn't expire, right?
That's true.
We can get a lot of certifications, but, in 3 to 5 years, you got to redo those certifications.
Right. Expensive too, from what I hear.
Yeah. If the company don't pay for it, most people don't get them.
Exactly. That's it's so. I believe the degree. What it does is says that I have foundational knowledge that I can read, think, and apply a skill set, right? And it's specific to whatever degree you're in, degree program you're in. But as we all know, technology changes so frequently. We have to be lifelong learners. I mean, the things that we learn, they become outdated, but hopefully the skill set, the base knowledge is something that you can adapt easily. And if you don't have that, if you're testing or studying to test for those certifications with a lot of those boot camps and those tests you find online, then, if somebody asks you the question slightly differently, can you really answer the question?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So,
good point. And just consuming it in a time frame. I think that's the biggest thing I know I took from college. Like, you have all these things. How are you going to manage your time?
Yeah.
Put it in. And I know on the boot camps, it's not, have all, you're not getting all that stuff. And the networking, like the people you meet as well. I think that alone was enough for me to make a big difference as well.
I mean, that's how we all got together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I think one thing.
I definitely believe in the college experience. I mean, and I will be the first to tell you now that you are peers and not my student. I enjoyed all of my college years.
Right.
I went to the parties. I pledged the sorority. I hung out. I walked down Virginia Beach Boulevard. Shh, don't tell my mama. I mean, you name it. I did it. I enjoyed my college years, but I also did my work, right?
Right.
So, like you said, it was about time management. I was there on scholarship, so I knew that I had to maintain certain grades, to be able to keep my scholarship. Primarily because my dad told me that. I said to him when I got the scholarship, "Hey, I saved you some money, so you should buy me a car." And he looked directly at me. He said, "You save yourself some money." That put it in perspective for me. But yeah, so college, the college experience is great. But I come from parents who went to college too, so it was sort of expected. However, my brother doesn't have a college degree, so it just all in the experience that you have when you um, start your college, experience. I mean, he started in Office State, he took a different path, but then life happens. So I encourage everybody, if you're going to go to school, but you need to be mindful of when you're going to school, right? That you're there for a purpose, and that's to get the degree. All the other stuff is secondary, but I think you'll really enjoy it um, if you focus on it and do what you need to do. And just recognize that you are there to get a degree. So joining the sorority, being in the band, all of those things are to support your career. And as I stated initially, once you have your degree, you have it. Doesn't expire.
Right. So I guess I have a good follow up question. So with all of, I guess unpacking everything that you've mentioned, I know we're all products of Norfolk State University, and I know we're all proud to be products of Norfolk State University. But are there any like new efforts that NSU is taking to kind of like produce more professionals, more or educated and driven professionals? I mean.
So yes, I mean, so now as you know, I'm a vice provost, so I see the university outside of just CSET and cybersecurity and complex, but I'm still the executive director of the complex. But so I would say in 2020, NSU has secured a number. I think I counted about 10 new academic partnerships for research and teaching. And so they
Nice.
bring new opportunities for students and faculty. We have the partnership with Netflix. I'm sure you're all familiar with that one. We have a ton more. Microsoft, Sandia, Livermore, MITRE, USAA for our Center of Academic Public Policy. So yeah, we have a newer president. She's been there about a year, and we have a new provost. And so they come from different perspectives and different type of university here to NSU. And I really believe that their perspective gives us some fresh ideas so that we're not continuing to do the same things as we've always done. So I appreciate it. Their perspective on a lot of things. So we are reaching out to partner with companies. We are establishing relationships for our students to get internships. We are establishing new things. So I just shared with the faculty cybersecurity faculty, because now we have a cyber psychology degree as well as the cybersecurity. We have socio-psychology classes. So those are where sociology and cybersecurity is infused in the undergraduate program.
Oh, nice.
So I just sent an email to all of the cybersecurity faculty through a grant that I have for the complex. I have negotiated faculty development support in SANS classes. So you all know SANS is a very well respected, trusted trainer. So I will pay for faculty to attend those classes. And if they want to sit for the certification, I have grant funds to help them do that. But I also negotiated a relationship with CompTIA. So for our students, while they're in school and they're taking the Security Plus and all of those classes, as long as they've taken the course that aligns to the CompTIA certification, I also have them available, the vouchers for students and faculty. So the students can actually get their degree, and now they'll be able to sit for the certifications and graduate with the certifications as well if they so choose. So I think that's going to be a great help for our students coming out of our cybersecurity and computer science program. So I'm looking forward to providing that support. But we're also launched a new research area in governance, risk, and compliance,
Okay.
which is like the quote unquote softer side of cybersecurity, where we in the master's cybersecurity, we have a number of students who come from non-technical degrees, but they can write well, they can develop policies. So the goal is if they are securing their cybersecurity knowledge, but they like the policy side, the compliance side, now they'll be able to do that research on an Archer system. So that's now available in the complex as well.
I feel like I'm missing
So
out
we're
on all
doing
the
our
good stuff.
part.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
I can get any of these opportunities. Now, granted, I got some
I
good
know.
opportunities, but I mean, when you say Netflix and USAA and all these different things,
Trying to go back.
hey, you
I
think
think
I can
that
come back and find some other type of degree I can add to my resume or something?
Just get a book bag and walk on campus just a little bit longer.
They might accept me as a student. I don't know.
I'm sure we can find something for you. Might put you to work a little bit, but
I like a little work. I can do that.
So, Dr. Williams, we know that you're the executive director of the cyber security complex. Can you, I guess, state some of the cool things that you guys are doing in that building, or some of the cool technologies that are being hosted or activities that the building is being used for? I think you might have stated some of them already, though.
yeah. So the complex is a research center. So it inclusive in the complex. We have the IA Ready Information Assurance Research Education Development Institute. So that is our NSA DHS designation as a center of excellence for cyber defense education. And basically in there, we have mapped courses and programs so the NSA can say, yes, you are a good cyber educator. But the students do research. So we in there, and along with the faculty. We also have forensics equipment. We have FredC. So we have a ton of commercial off-the-shelf software that students use for mobile forensics, digital forensics, any type of forensics, really. So we'll buy, the different mobile devices so that they can actually use the software to be able to do the scans and find the embedded instances, I'll call them. But we also, create those environments for our outreach programs too. So this summer we had a 1 week middle school and high school camp, and they learn forensics in a week, and they have to actually complete a case using FTK, find it, write it, and present it, because we also want to work on the soft skills that our students need to be able to talk in front of people. Because you can know a lot of things, but if you can't tell anybody about it, then
right.
So
that's
glad you mentioned
problematic.
those soft skills.
Yeah,
We've had an episode about soft
Yeah.
skills. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
So-
seen people get promoted just off of being able to talk alone,
Yeah.
being able to explain the stuff. Because a lot of people in the field just do not want to get up and talk. So
Right.
Definitely
Don't want to
true.
get talk, or they talk at such a high level that you don't understand what they're saying, which is just
Yeah,
as bad, right? So you can know everything, but then I just need to put you in a cubicle and let you do your work. I don't need you talking to me, everything like that.
Exactly.
So yeah. So also we have Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity Research, and that's Dr. Shay's area where he's doing his case system, machine learning, and advanced persistent threat research and all of that. So we got a lot of things going on. And then, as I mentioned, the new research for the governance, Center of Excellence for Governance Research and Education. So that's the industry recognized Center of Excellence. So we have industry partners, minority businesses, So in that agreement, the students can do the research in the summers that minority businesses will give the students an internship, coupled with the CompTIA certs and the other certs. I'm providing the best
looking really
atmosphere I can, right?
Yeah.
So you can take advantage of it or not, but I mean, what more can I do but take the
Right.
classes for you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, for me, as you all know, I'm an alumna of the program. So the product that we produce directly reflects on me. So I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure that we're producing great product.
And we appreciate you for
We
that.
do appreciate it. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
so, and being, one of your students for both bachelor's and master's, I got to see a lot of your dedication towards, women and minorities and bringing them in and getting them early, like you said about the program with the high school students. So, how do you feel about the current state of women and minorities in the STEM field in general, not just at Norfolk State?
Well, part of the challenge is there's still this implicit bias that lives across organizations where they believe that women are not interested. And so they turn them away from it versus encouraging them to participate. And I have a real problem with that because, as you were, Jasmine, I have had several female students to come through the project, come through the program who could chop it up with the best of them. You know what I mean? So it's not a matter of if they're not interested and they can't do. You all did. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But I believe it was just, given the proper encouragement and the opportunity, our women will persist. But that implicit bias lives, and not just with folks that don't look like us. Sometimes with people who look like us as well, which is problematic. So, I try to speak to young ladies all the time, especially middle school and above, so they can see, because for me, I saw my aunt doing it, right? So I saw her as a developer. And that was that role model that made, you couldn't tell me women can't do it because I saw my aunt is doing it. What do you mean? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if people can see themselves in the opportunity, they'll definitely believe it's for them. I mean, it's the whole effect that we now have with Vice President Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
Look at what she's going to do. I mean, just so that people can now see themselves in this space, and it's going to change. It's going to change. And then one thing that I wanted to mention about that, you asked the question earlier about should you get the degree. So we all know that when the economy changes, right, and our economy is going up and down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as the economy changes, people go to school or they go to work.
Right.
But the thing is, if you have the degree, you have more likelihood to sustain through that ebb and flow in the economy. So that's another reason why you should just invest in it, get it done, focus on, get your degree, and at least you have the degree.
So Dr. Williams, with, talking about that implicit bias and things like that, so there's plenty that we still need to work on as far as, making sure that women and minorities in STEM feel really comfortable in the space that they're in when they go into certain places, because that implicit bias also affects people's way of thinking and all that stuff while they're in there, which brings about imposter syndrome sometimes, where it's like, do I even really belong in this space? Because, I mean, just a few days ago, I was in a room full of like white males, and I'm the only female in the room. And it was just like, surprisingly, it doesn't happen to me too often where I'm the only female in the room and the only minority in the room. And so when it happened, I'm just like, oh, okay. And they're all looking at me for answers about things, where it's like they're helping to validate that yes, you do belong in this space. And so, that doesn't always happen for everyone in those spaces, where sometimes people are just like, they'll talk over you, they'll dismiss your ideas and things like that. And so with that, are there any ideas of how we can, get more women and minorities involved in this field to really drive that feeling of being included in a space?
So that's very interesting. And when I heard you say that just last week you were in a room with only, Caucasian males, I mean, that was my life 20 years ago, right? Before I came to NSU. I was always the only, the only female, the only Black female. I mean, so, and like you say, you start to wonder about that imposter. Do I know as much as they know? What I quickly learned, I often knew more than they knew. But what I realized is that I had to always let them know what I knew. I could not remain silent because they would take silence as a sign that you were inferior. So I learned to use very pointed words to communicate what I need. So I didn't do a whole lot of hanging out, didn't do a whole lot of, just bantering with them. When I was in my work environment, I was in my work environment, and I knew you were always testing me. That's how I felt anyway. So I knew I was always on the spot. So, that code switching, that's real. Unfortunately, it is, but we have to learn how to do it. So I can go and be with my friends and I can say whatever I want to say, hang out, do.
Right.
But when I become, Dr. Williams, my kids will tell you, oh, were you talking to somebody at work? Maybe because my voice and everything changes, because I have to make it clear that, I belong in this room. And as women, we have to reach back and pull people along and tell them the same thing, because we all experience that one only and all of that. And I will tell you, the person who helped me with that the most was Dr. Deloach. I mean, she would encourage me all the time. She would tell me when I first came to NSU, and I was working on some research, she said, okay, you're going to present this to the faculty. I was like, the whole faculty? Wait a minute. I'm not ready to. She was like, oh, you're ready. And it was very well received, but she was the one that pushed. And that's all we need. Yeah. We need somebody to push us. We need somebody to say it's going to be fine, but somebody to be honest with you. Now, in those environments, you have to be on your game. You can't allow any little thing, because they will take advantage of any little thing and exploit it for much more than it is. So you have to be prepared all the time. Presentation is just as important as content, right? So if you might be very well versed and everything is perfect, but it looks like crap, they're not going to get past the looking like crap. So you have to make sure that your presentation is solid, followed up by the content. And for African American females, young ones, again, it's the role modeling. So I've done research on that as well. And it's the role modeling, it's the mentoring, and you could be a role model for a lot of people that you don't even know, because they're just watching you from afar. But you want to make sure that you are always presenting the best case, right? And that doesn't mean you have to live in a box, but just know that when you walk into those rooms, you're representing a lot of people. And it might be, a heavy load, a lot to carry, but it's the truth. So I am a realist. And I like people to be able to operate from what is, not what could be, what we wanted to be, because we have to work to that. And you have to have willing partners to be able to build those bridges. So I believe we reach back, we lift up, and we provide opportunities for our young females to participate. And you highly encourage them. Even when they get distracted or discouraged, you have to find a way to say, hey, I was distracted. I was discouraged. I was in operating systems. I didn't ever want to write a program again, but I made it through. I mean, right? You know what I'm saying? This is a temporary feeling. You know what I mean?
Yes.
This too shall pass. Everybody that is in their doctoral degree, I tell them one semester at a time. That is it. One
Right.
semester at a time. Work to get to the end of the semester. Because I don't know if you know, but when I went to get my doctoral degree, remember, it wasn't on my plan.
Right.
But she
Right.
said, if this is going to be your career, this is what you have to do. When I started my doctoral degree, I had a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old.
Wow.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
And my program
Yes.
was in New York. So I had to go do my residency requirement and leave my husband with my 2 babies for a week. Oh, I cried.
That's why you mentioned them in the beginning. That support system.
Yes.
It's real.
That support system.
But I'm going to tell you, the support system was everything. There were weekends when I just had to do my work. I would send out an email to my parents, my aunts, and say, hey, I need childcare from this time to this time. And they would sign up and take care of my babies so I could do what I got to do. And, you know, that's the only way. But I will tell you, because it was so intense and I had, you know, these little kids, you know, I had to focus. I did nothing else but go to school, and I was able to finish in 3 years. 3 years because I went all year for 3 years to get it done. One semester at a time. And I got to the end with my dissertation. And he wanted more and more. And
Oh no. Uh-oh.
It's like I see the light, but it just keeps moving.
I promise you, I was worn down. And I was like, I don't even care. I'll just be another ABD. Then I got this
No.
other thing. If you want to graduate within this 3 years, then you need to have these things by this day. And I said, okay, Lord, one more try.
Right.
I did. Because it was just what I was telling to the students. You are so close. How could you
Right.
not finish? You know?
Right.
So it came back to me in that form. And so I did it. But
We appreciate you for continuing.
Yes.
Again, you know,
Sure.
if I didn't have, you know, Dr. Deloach, there were many days that I was like, the statistics for my test plans and, you know, all of that. No, what T-test? What are you talking about? No, but I don't, that's not what I do. She me a statistician to help me with that part of testing my, you know what I'm saying? So she provided everything to me that helped me to succeed. And I just truly believe if it had not been for those things, I wouldn't be Dr. Williams.
Right.
So I believe that it's important for me to do the same thing. So when I get the call from the Crown Academy, which is the girls touring group, to come over to get an introduction to STEM, absolutely bring them over. We create environments for, you know, using Swift actually on iPads that they're coding on the spot, or using the Sphero robots because it's fun and engaging, and they don't really know that they're programming or how it translates. But we teach them that, and they, you know, it doesn't seem so daunting.
Right.
And so, you know, while we need you all to learn a lot of things when you're in the computer science program, but the actual programs that we assign could definitely be more interesting. You know, just having those things run and pop up that little black screen. It's hard, right? So I used to, when I teach 170, you know, they had to code an ATM machine. Everybody knows how to go to the bank and use an ATM machine. And the concepts are just what? Selection statements, control structures.
Right.
And we used to use function, and it was fun. Or the cell phone bill. Do you remember cell phones when you had to pay for
80
different
cents a minute.
Yeah, it was after, you had Roman and you had Prime and you had
Yeah.
all the different kinds of minutes, so that
Call
was
me after
important
9 o'clock.
we used to, those kind of real world applications students enjoy.
Yeah, because that was, for me personally, like, I know that was one of the struggle points for me going through the program. It's like, yeah, but when am I ever going to program something like this? Because of the fact that it's just, there was no relation. And then in one of my classes, I think it was data structures, it was program this, what was it, airline reservation system. That I could do. I like to take flights. Let me figure out how, this particular thing works in the background about having a bunch of different flights, a bunch of different people trying to organize different times all that time. And so with that, it's like, you guys already given me all the basic building blocks for this, and now I'm getting a chance to bring all this together and produce something. And so yeah, I think I worked on that like just overnight. It was like, hey, so I got a couple questions about my program. It's like, you already done? It's like, yeah. And
And
so
so it's
yeah, having those,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
it's relatable. If I tell you you trying to learn linked list and I said, well, you're going to pop off 5 numbers and push 2 numbers, you're like, what? Why am I popping this? Like,
popping and pushing.
when would I use that? And so, I
Yeah.
tried to find programs where students would actually use the concept so they could understand, because that's the more important piece.
Mm-hmm.
I remember asking that
Awesome.
question every night. Like, when am I going to use this?
It's that foundation, though. It is that foundation. So that there's a lot of technologies that I've learned in the workforce, and I'm like, oh, but this is it's similar to this. And I know data structures. I use that so much. It's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. So it's like it's one of those things. Sometimes the boring classes are. It's like, okay, I at least see why we were doing that, because it might not apply to a
Yeah.
specific technology, but it's everywhere.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
So I definitely
Right.
so.
Or it just becomes one of those things where you like kind of forget, and then you get into a situation and it's like, oh, well, let me just spew off all this stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, that relates to that class that I completely forgot about everything. But you still have that knowledge that's embedded in you now that you can just
Right.
pull from at random points in time. So to kind of get us back on track, since we're talking about, women and minorities, how do we engage those lower income students? Because with those lower income students come less opportunities for them, because some people kind of stray away from those areas and things. But we want to make sure we give those kids those opportunities, because if they don't see it, they don't know it exists. And so, how can we engage them more in the computer science space?
so you have to partner with the schools, right? So, I partner. My husband actually works at a Title One school, right? So I don't know if you know what that means, but Title One means that
Mm-hmm.
the school is in a lower income environment. And so if you're partnering with the schools to offer workshops, presentations, then that's where the students are, and you're bringing it to the students, because you can't expect that they're going to come to you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I do that a lot through organizations that I participate in, but I also get, the random calls. Can you come and do this or that and the other? And I very rarely say no, because I believe it's just that important. The thing is, though, again, at those age levels and with those schools, you have to make it very interesting, where they almost don't even feel like it's science. I never forget that I went over to um, ODU, and I was a presenter at a STEM and U kind of presentation. Um, Me and Dr. Abdullah, who's in biology. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but the two of us. And so what I was doing was teaching students how to um, count in binary with little random cards. And, I had them to do their birthday because that number's never going to be over 31. And, you can get 5
Mhm.
cards and you got 32, right? And
Right.
so learning to flip them and turn them and all that, they didn't know that that was necessarily what they're doing until the end when I explained it. So one of the little girls was like, "You said this was gonna be fun. I don't want to do anything." But in the space of 30 girls and I only lost one, I was okay with
Only lost one.
that. Yeah.
So that was a
Like, all
good
right,
day.
you might be in
Numbers,
the arts.
the numbers are good.
Right. But so they just knew what they were doing. But once I explained at the end that this is how you count it back, they were like, wow. Even the parents were getting excited about it. So you just have to, it's the presentation. And again, to reach them, you have to go to them. Not gonna come to you.
Well, I think that's, the gist of most of our questions. So, one question that we kind of want to bring back to, the current state of things now. And, with the pandemic that we have going on and things like that, how has the recruitment and retention of students been for you guys? Because of the fact that, you're having to reach these students virtually and things like that.
So it's been a shift, right? But it's not just for NSU, it's all across the country. So, like you stated, we now have virtual orientations, right? We have virtual courses. We're doing our business virtually. So, all of the pieces of paper that we have come to know have to be signed in, pen by pen. Not really so much,
Right.
right? So, it's a
Mhm.
cultural change shift for everybody, at the university. But in terms of the students, a lot of people are hosting virtual graduate fairs, virtual career fairs. And so our recruiters are participating in those career fairs, right? And of course, they do the same thing that they would do if they were face to face, offer, the discount for the admissions, the application, that kind of thing. But what we have had to do is create brag books or brag videos, right? Because students, attention spans are different.
Right.
They're not going to watch, you know, if I'm coming to a CSTEP orientation and I think I might be choosing between math and computer science, I don't really care what biology is saying. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they want to be able to get through. So you have to create palatable segments for students to be able to get the information and go. It has to be mobile friendly. It has to be all those things. We have to reach people and the students where they are. Now, so that's a change for us, and it's a big change. But now, you know, from the provost office, I now know that there are lots of things that we are doing. So they are trying to reach students. So they have texting software. So we can send a text to every student on campus to give them the message that we need, right? Most of the students have the phone. They're not reading
Always.
those emails that we keep sending them, but they
Right.
might read that text
Those
message.
emails.
So
Yeah. They need to
that
learn
helps.
emails is the way people work in the real world.
No, we're moving away. Chat ops. I went Slack. Everything else.
Yes, right. Right. So even now with my organizations, we going away from email. We use a Slack. We use Dropbox paper for running agendas. I mean, technology. Everything
27
is in the
billion.
cloud.
Right.
Everything is in the
Right.
Yep.
cloud. So you have to be
27 billion,
assessed.
Clarence.
So
Clarence, I didn't know chat was that important. I said yes.
I use chat, but I know a lot of places still are heavy on the email. So
a lot of places
Yeah.
are, but it really is just a lot of change for us, but we're trying to do our very best and be present where the students are. In terms of retention, we have moved our tutoring centers and mentoring centers to become virtual, right? So you still sign up for a session, but you just meet through Zoom or, Blackboard Collaborate. But now everybody on campus has a Zoom account, all the faculty, administrators, even the students, and it's offered through the university. Also have Office 365 for everybody now. So all the tools that come with Office 365, all the students have it because we have to make the environment such that students can use it from a distance, right? But we have to modify our workflows. We still have some workflows that require person-to-person engagement, and those things have to get a different modality. So we're working on it to make ourselves comparable to our peers while still maintaining that, HBCU atmosphere where I know your name is Jasmine. I know your name is Clarence. I know your name is Terrence. You know what I mean? Because we know that that's important for our students. So
Yes.
we're working on that. We have also offered in terms of retention. We know that we don't know how everybody is faring in the pandemic, and that people are faring differently. And so you might have a hard semester, but we are offering pass, no pass grades where they don't impact your GPA. So if you didn't do well because you had an experience, maybe due to the pandemic, I mean, COVID-19 is so up close and personal, and, people are really losing the battle. Some students are having 2 and 3 people in a semester, to just not pay. And, it's hard, right? So if the grades this semester was hard, then they can get a no pass class. So it doesn't impact your GPA, doesn't look like an F on your transcript, but you just don't get credit for the class. So.
Wow, that's amazing. That's actually a big deal.
Yeah.
To do that. You don't always.
I was wondering about that. Just with, for a lot of students being at home, like you don't really know what their home environment is and how tough that can be for them. And so, like, you may have like one of your top students that have been thriving on campus, but since, they're in the midst of this pandemic and home and all that stuff, like grades just aren't looking well. And so I was just wondering how that would, eventually affect them in, the progress of moving forward to professional life and, such and such company saying, well, what happened here? Type of thing. So,
well, that's very true. And that's the point that we try to get our students to understand. So while we're offering this option, we want you to still continue to do your best and elect your traditional grades. However, if it is a situation that, truly impacts you, here's an opportunity to reduce the impact by allowing you to select the pass, no pass. But what we are finding is that, some students, my son, he's a sophomore in Upstate. I don't know if you all know that, but he's a sophomore in Upstate. So he comes and tells me, I got a 3.9 this semester. I said, oh, did you? I go and look, and every B down, he done got a pass. So it doesn't impact GPA. So because it's not factored into the GPA, he only elected to retain his A's. So he got a 3.9. But it boosts his GPA. So, he's playing a spread, right?
A way to game the system.
Yes. But the thing is, if he decides to go to grad school or something, you need grades, not so many P's or NP's. So we want students to understand that part too.
Right.
Well, with all that, Dr. Williams, we greatly appreciate you for taking up the time because we know that you're busy with, all the things that you have going on. We greatly appreciate you, coming back to, just have a conversation with, 3 of your, maybe favorite students. I'm not putting anything up there. Listen, we just greatly appreciate your time. And we appreciate all the work that you're doing to, really boost your students, incentivize the up and coming possible students for Norfolk State and things like that. So yes, thank you so much for that. And without further ado, Devs Like Us community, thank you for listening. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, And definitely ring that bell.
Ring that bell.
Ring a bell.
We missed it. We missed it.
You did. But yeah, thanks so much, guys.